You're listening to Weird and Dead, the paleontology podcast that tells evolution's most embarrassing and bizarre stories. I'm Meaghan Wetherill.
And I'm Amy Atwater, and we're two living scientists who are weirdly excited about dead things. On this episode, we cover the details of radioactive dinosaurs and poisonously gassy horses. And Meaghan tries, kind of unsuccessfully, to remember the details from her minor in chemistry.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. But of course, like always, we talk about gross things and we curse a lot. So please check out the content warnings in the description. Also, we are not for kids, but Amy's new book is, and you should go buy a copy of The Fossil Keeper's Treasure. For this episode, we're going to talk about radioactive dinosaurs and radioactive horses and radioactive wood and all sorts of radioactive fossils.
Oh my.
I thought that I would start this one off with a story that I'm hoping you haven't heard.
I try to just, cut all dinosaur information from my brain when I can. So even if I did
Fair.
know it at one point does not mean it's still there.
Totally fair. Well, you can just pretend that you didn't hear it anyways, right? This is all new information for you. We'll see how good your acting ability and yeah. Okay. So the story goes like this. In the year of our Lord and Savior, 1990.
Oh, it was an okay year. It was a good year.
Yeah. In 1990, in Utah, a group of paleontologists in Dinosaur National Monument found the skeleton of an Allosaurus, which they were excited about, but whatever, it's an Allosaurus. And they found like almost the full body, and it was in a quarry, but the quarry was, I mean, we've talked about Dinosaur National Monument in some of our Patreon stuff, but it's pretty steep. Yes. So there became a certain point where they couldn't quarry back anymore without it being kind of dangerous, especially since they weren't sure if there was going to be anything else in there, because what they found was they found pretty well a whole skeleton, except for the head. No head.
Okay, headless horseman style. Okay, Ichabod is the name. I see. Yes.
Yeah, very French guillotine style Allosaurus.
Hot.
So they kept looking for like 2 weeks, I guess. Every time I read one of these papers, I get really mad because I feel like all of the paleontology work that I've done has been in rocks that are as hard as fucking diamonds. So the idea of sitting there for 2 weeks and successfully getting like a whole dinosaur out is just insane to me because everything's so hard. I think everybody's digging through fucking sand in these dinosaur places. That's the only logical conclusion that I can come to.
Just mud. And it varies. It actually gets really frustrating because the Morrison here in Morrison, Colorado, of which it's named, is a very, very, very well cemented sandstone, silicious sandstone. And it is next to impossible. Like the original, Arthur Lakes and Marsh or Cope. I can't remember because I don't care. They had to use dynamite to get it. And they knew they were just blasting through bones, but there was no other way to do it quickly because of the bone wars. They're trying to hurry. And then it's fascinating when you go to other places with Morrison, there's like mudstone and shale. And people are like, yeah, we just took out 50 Apatosaurus. And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, apparently this was in 50 Apatosaurus zone where it's just everything's on easy mode.
Yep.
Unless you're looking for a head. So they ended up pulling out the entire body minus the head. And they flew it out by helicopter, of course, because that's the way that dinosaur people do it. And it was, I guess, 2,700 kilograms, which doesn't sound as big as I would expect a rock of dinosaur to be quite frank.
We've already established that me and the metric system are like no bueno. So to me, I'm like, is that just like a ton? That's a lot less than a ton. How much is that in pounds, bitch? Tell me. I'm American.
How would I know?
You researched this.
I have no idea. I didn't research that.
Well, you should, science communicator. Oh, yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm pretty sure that the HVAC
The
specialist has just
HVAC
arrived,
guy is
which
here.
but I do think it's very funny that we're actually gonna talk a lot about HVAC today in this episode,
It's
and the
fitting.
HVAC guy is coming. So, when last we left off, my dogs were barking at the HVAC guy. We were talking about this Allosaurus where they carried out an unknowable size because neither of us can really translate kilograms. You willfully can't translate them, and
It's
I just
true.
kind of generally can't, and didn't look them up. But really, really heavy body, no head, so sad. 6 years later.
It's like story of my life.
Ugh, so true.
Oh, that could be dirty. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that.
Ah, okay. Uh, yep, heavy Allosaurus body. It's okay if you're bottom heavy like this Allosaurus
That's
was.
right.
So in 1996, a professor from the University of Utah came out to test his new radiological surveying technique, which was not, oh, let me x-ray the ground to see if there are bones. It was, I know some of these bones are radioactive and the dirt isn't. So what if I just took a little toot 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 detector
Oh.
up to the quarry wall? Because, we can do dangerous shit targeted, but we can't take down the whole quarry wall. So let's see if we can find it. And sure enough, they found the head. So
Wow.
they found a high source of gamma radiation in the wall. And it was
Ooh.
the skull.
Oh.
Yeah, turns out to be a new species, although
Oh,
you and
it's
I
that
know that
one.
new species
Oh, I
is
know what specimen this is
yeah.
now. I didn't know that about its discovery though, but is this Allosaurus jimmadsoni? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Previously known as Allosaurus fragilis. Yes. Yeah. I think fragilis is a cooler
Oh,
species name. That one's still valid. There's still Allosaurus fragilis. And now, in the last couple of years, there's this new species, Allosaurus jimmadsoni, which I guess includes this one, but it also includes the famous big owl that I managed at Museum of the Rockies,
yeah.
MOR 693. So that one is also jimmadsoni. But again, I don't fucking care. It doesn't make any difference. I just call it Allosaurus. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't care. I'm just going to call it Allosaurus. Like, it's fine. It's close enough.
It's fine. It's whatever.
Yeah,
Well, and Allosaurus and dinosaur and paleontological species change all the fucking time.
constantly.
But I do think that they did give it a pretty lame name because, as you said, it's a very Ichabod Crane
Mm.
story. And I feel like Allosaurus ichabodensis would have
Yes.
been a significantly cooler name.
Forget your years of dedication to Utah paleontology, Jem Madsen. Fuck off. It's Ichabodensis. Ichabodensis.
I mean, yeah.
It's,
So
yeah.
I have exactly one image for this episode because they did a reconstruction
Yep.
so that they could try and to show you how far the head was away from the body.
Oh my god, first off, this is hilarious. So I'm looking at it's like a two-part
Yeah.
it's like a two-part image. It's like the actual skeleton
Mhm.
itself still embedded in the rock and the skull above it, and then it's like a schematic drawing next to it to just show you what
Mhm.
elements are there and whatnot. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm is that scale bar? Is that in what is my sense of like is that full thing like a meter? If so, then the head is only like a meter and a half from the rest from its torso, but apparently it took them 6 years and looking for gamma radiation to find that head.
That's a great question.
There's so many jokes to be had.
But it is like this image is just hilarious also because it kind of looks like there's no border on the
No.
image, and because the head is so far away from the body, it kind of looks like it's floating and maybe was supposed to be part of a different image. Like it's graphically
It looks like bad Photoshop. Like it really does looks like someone lassoed
yeah.
the skull and then like accidentally moved it and saved the image and we're like, "Ah, fuck."
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, regardless of what that measurement is, it's pretty far separated from the rest of the body. And like the rest of the body isn't complete. There's, there's some missing feet and stuff, but you've got most of the backbone, you've got the ribs, you've got at least one full arm, you've got
Got the pelvis.
what a confusing array of legs, a
Yeah.
pelvis, and most a big chunk of the tail. So like to have that complete of a skeleton and then just have the head fucking off in the
Yeah.
distance. What do you think happened to this
Oh, I
animal?
mean, that to me, well, okay, it also kind of looks like it's in death pose. I'm gonna say that too, where the
Yes.
tail is curled
Yeah.
and the head, even where it is, if you imagined it had like a giraffe neck, it could almost be that dramatic arch of a death pose. So part of me wonders
Yeah.
if that is, I mean, like, I have two thoughts. One is water and just being in a river and your head being the part, like the end of the
Mhm.
tail is also not articulated. It's nearby, but it's also not articulated. So these
Yeah.
distal parts that aren't as connected as well as like that torso could have been moved by water in this fluvial system. And it could have also been
Mhm.
predation. I think other folks would also say the head got ripped off and they were eating the head like a few feet away.
I don't know. So a death pose in dinosaurs, what we mean is that dinosaurs have a tendon. Birds do this too, where they have a tendon that runs along the back of their neck, and when they die in a way where that tendon dries or gets heated, their neck curls back and their head kind of curls back towards their butt. And this looks to me almost like it did that so hard that it flung its own head off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Taphonomy. Like I would say it's, well, yeah, I mean, yes. Yeah, super dramatic. And then right, once it like got the super bend, then that neck and skull is even more susceptible to whatever's around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you flexed her so hard. Yeah, it looks like they're doing like an epic back bend, but their like point of contact is like the head and tail, which is bonkers. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, so that's that very silly image. And it sounds like, oh, this is like such a crazy story. These dinosaur bones are radioactive enough that you can detect them with detector things, Geiger counters and whatever. No,
Detectors.
in fact, detector.
Ah.
In fact, after reading this and prepping for this episode, I am now very concerned about how many fucking fossils are radioactive because it's not uncommon.
Nope.
It's pretty common. We're going to talk about a couple like big formations, but it's something that, for reasons that we'll discuss later, you should check. If you've got a new fossil locality, double check that it's not radioactive
Yeah.
for reasons that we will be shortly discussing. And the reason that it's not that uncommon is because of the way that uranium behaves. So we're specifically
Ooh,
talking about uranium
so
and
bad.
like it's what are those? The children, it's little
Oh, it's
children.
daughter products.
So uranium is the
Mm.
family tree, daughter products. Thank you.
I
Yes. So uranium is radioactive. It's super fucking heavy as far as elements go, which is important because that makes it hard to accumulate. Anything that's heavy doesn't exactly get like moved around super easily.
ah.
So uranium, yeah, how do you think that you can move uranium from one place to the other? Don't say bombs or trucks, but like geologically, how do you get an accumulation of uranium
Well,
somewhere?
I am super biased, right? For like
Uh-huh.
multiple reasons. I've worked with tons of radioactive fossils, and I am married to a man who has studied uranium for like his PhD. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
annoyingness with that and greatness. He's above my head right now. Hello, you're smart.
Can't
Um,
talk too much shit
I
on
already told
uranium
him,
while
I
he's
was
still
like, we're
in there.
talking about radioactive stuff. He was like, well, the two different chains of decay. And I was like, nope, nope. Sorry,
No.
you can totally hear me. Sorry. Oh, but what I was going to say is back to your question and not my marital situation. I know for a fact from working at Arches National Park, where we have a lot of these rock units that produce really radioactive bones,
Uh-huh.
that quite literally organic material is one of the sinks and sources of radioactive. So, like
Yes.
uranium, and in fact, have used finding dinosaur bones to know where uranium deposits could be, and it's literally like in the matrix
Yeah.
of the bones.
I would say most, although I don't study uranium, so Kelly, you can argue with us later. But as far as I
He
know,
will.
most uranium deposits happen, you will, because of hot groundwater,
Ooh.
right? So picking
Mm.
that up and depositing it somewhere. And that sort of stuff can move really nicely through sedimentary rocks. And uranium will full on precipitate out when it meets carbonaceous material,
Mm,
like you were talking about. So not only is uranium likely to be found with fossils, it's more likely to be found in the fossils than in the surrounding sediment because it's carbonaceous material that causes it to fall out of that super stinking hot groundwater. So
ugh.
you find it in fossils, and you should find it in fossils. Pretty much anytime that uranium has like dipped near them, you're probably going to find uranium as long as it is coming in before they're fully permineralized. So the uranium is part of the permineralization process for these things. It's not going to be like if I took a fossil bone now and I put it in the ground and ran uranium past it, the uranium's not going to do anything
Mm,
because what's happening in a lot of cases is saying this word when our first episode of season 3 was urine
I'm
is
excited.
very different for me, but the urinal atom, I don't know if that's actually how you say it. I have a minor in chemistry, and I don't know if that's how you say it. I think it is,
Sorry, I forgot
but
that.
I'm concerned that it's kinda like a Uranus thing where that's not really how you say it.
Whatever. They're all nerds. They can handle it.
So the urinal atom, which is UO2 plus plus, I guess that it can actually attach with two adjacent phosphates. So it's really likely to precipitate out and replace the calcium in your bones. So it
Rude.
actually is
Oh.
like permineralizing
Is
you
that
by
why?
kicking out
Is
calcium.
that like
Uh,
what when people get straight up like Chernobyl and their bones like are destroyed from the inside out? Is that what's happening? Is that the oh, never mind. Never mind. Let's not talk about that.
ugh. I'm making that face because that sounds disgusting.
I do have a funny story about Chernobyl later.
Funny. Oh yeah, super funny.
I do.
But yeah, I don't we're not going to talk about the degree of damage that it's causing. These animals are dead. These are dead animals. They're not getting nuked by uranium juice. They're becoming one with the uranium juice as part of their fossilization. So, I have a whole bunch of uranium fossils here.
Looking for fresh fashion with a science twist? Be sure to check out Geopetal Fabric, Megan's clothing company. These geek chic designs look fantastic and make for excellent conversation starters. Oh, you like my shirt? Thank you. It's based on trace fossils from a penis worm. Head on over to geopetalfabric.com and use code WeirdandDead for 10% off.
Are you looking for the best possible dinosaur or fossil related book for a kid in your life? Amy wrote one. It's got these amazing touchable illustrations, and while it is completely child friendly, some of our favorite not so appropriate animals are hidden throughout. Get your copy of The Fossil Keeper's Treasure today wherever you buy books. Oh, with spider webs that I was going to show
Lick
you
it.
because I have a have a bunch of petrified wood. Well, so
It's
the story
beautiful.
with this
Oh, it's very. Is that super? Oh, betrayal. Okay, I was gonna. Okay, okay.
so this type of petrified wood is I'm doing the makeup girly thing. You know how
Oh
they put
yeah.
their hand behind so that your camera will actually focus? So fucking smart. I gotta give credit where credit is due. Those are some video smart girls. So I'm only holding up pieces that have blue because this petrified wood is from the Miocene. It's not something I'm studying. It's something that we're collecting as rocks just for fun because you're allowed to do that out by Saddle Mountain in central Washington. And it comes in a lot of different types and shapes. And the stuff that I'm holding up here is all the not so technical term for it is bogwood because it's basically
Hmm.
these chunks of slightly rotting wood that fossilized and so they kind of exploded a little bit during the fossilization process. So they're like cemented together chunks with silica. And in some cases like this one that I was showing you, that silica went like full hog and so you just get a bunch of silica as well. So
Yeah.
this blue chunk is on top of the stick and then the rest of it is just straight up agates. But the blue stuff is the only stuff that has uranium in it, and we didn't know that it had uranium in it. We just went and we collected a whole bunch of this cool petrified wood and we surrounded our fucking house in it until like 2 years ago when someone was like, "Oh yeah, highlight opal. It's glows green under shortwave UV length and that's how you know that it's got uranium in it." And so we tested a bunch of things in our house and we discovered that anytime you have blue on these fossils,
Huh.
that's got a whole bunch of uranium in it.
Do you know how hot they are?
I do a little bit because we got an ancient
Oh my
ass
god.
Geiger counter
Hey, shit
that was
works, man.
given to us.
It's like the print
Kind of.
the ideas that hasn't changed. It's not changed.
Yeah.
As long as it has to be you have to calibrate them and recalibrate them every once in a while, though.
Yeah, well, and you can't this one has batteries that you have to take out. You can't leave them in, you wanna prevent corrosion, but it's like I think it's from the '40s or the '30s. It's pretty goddamn old, this Geiger counter. So I know that, but also, I sent some pieces to a TikTok friend who's a chemist, and he tested them for me and was like, "You're safe. You're fine."
Oh my god. That
So
is like the best use of TikTok I've ever heard of. That's excellent.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's super, super common, and it happens a lot in petrified wood, it happens a lot in bones, and some kind of famous formations for it would be, like, the Chinle
Mhm.
Formation, in Utah, and the Morrison is really well known for radioactivity, which is where this little Allosaurus came from, and it's a fossil formation that you've had to deal with a
It's
lot.
true.
Uh, the salt wash member of the Morrison was, I guess, it's the most radioactive because it was a fluvial system.
Mm.
And then groundwater came up, and I guess it's kind of sandy. And it sounds like maybe there was some sort of salty brine layer above it. So you get basically these fluids coming into that sand and then not being able to
Get out.
penetrate up too much higher. So that's why you get,
And I would also wonder too, I mean, gold is also something that's very, very heavy, right? And so you do need to have like a environment, like a
yeah.
river system that has quite a few point bars and different, textures and stuff to
Mhm.
capture it. Like you can't just have it be or it would just get washed out.
Yeah.
So yeah, like needs to have that interesting overlap.
What I was reading with the Morrison is it's actually not so with gold, you're talking about, I think they're called placer deposits, where you get those hot fluids that deposit the gold and then it weathers out
Yeah,
and you wanna look for areas where heavy things are accumulating.
right.
But with the uranium and the salt wash member, you're not actually looking for fluvial movement. It actually was deposited after the sediment was in place. So it's not like you find pockets within the salt wash member, um, where it's heavier, you just find it where the groundwater
Oh.
went through. Yeah, which is
Oh,
weird.
interesting. Yes.
Yes. So that's one kind of famous one. And then another famous one that is obviously more cool because it involves mammals is the Hagerman fossil beds, which are in Idaho. And Hagerman isn't super well known for having like uranium in its bones. It does. I checked. There's some uranium, there's some thorium. But all of the little daughter products are the things that you really find in Hagerman stuff, including radium. And then radium decays to a gas called radon,
Yes.
which is why Hagerman fossils are straight up kind of dangerous because they are actually off gassing radon and they are doing it at rates where if you just have one bone and you hang around with it, you're probably fine. But in these places like at the fossil beds themselves and at the Natural History Museum at University of Idaho, you have these cabinets where you're putting all of these things all together
Uh-huh.
and as a result, you accumulate a shit ton of radon because the cabinets are often closed.
Yep.
And because some genius at some point was like, oh, we have poison bones. Why don't we put them in a cabinet that can't
Together.
let any gas out? Yeah, we'll put them together and we'll make sure that the problem just fucking accumulates in the cabinets.
Open the
Yeah, and then when you
door, you
open it,
get hit by a wave of radon.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I've heard of being
yes,
because people also don't necessarily open like fossil collections are some stuff doesn't get looked at for a really long time, even decades. So if you're not regularly
yeah.
opening up those cabinets, then yeah, you're at a much higher risk for radon poisoning.
Yeah. Yeah. As it turns out, radon is the solution to pollution is dilution. You want to make
Yeah.
sure that the radon is dispersed. You just don't want to have a concentrated dose of it. It's okay to have a little bit, which is good because radon is kind of all over the country. Um, radon is often found in the
Yep.
ground. So if you have a basement in certain areas of the country, you need to have a radon detector
It's heavy.
to make sure that things haven't
But I think
accumulated.
that's an important part
Yeah,
too, right?
it's
Like
heavy.
it's heavy, so it sinks. So that's why the
Yeah,
basement, that's why cabinets, once you open it, it wants to go to the lower area, which is where you're standing. So it's again, it's seeking
exactly.
these low lying places.
With this is more for everybody else because you've been a collections manager, you've seen collections. So collections of paleontological bones are often stored in like one or two ways. The first way is you put everything from the same formation together, and then maybe you do it by like when it was collected, maybe you do it by locality within that area, or maybe you put everything of the same type together. So, like the same species go together. And often there's still the same species from the same place. So, it turns out that not every species at Hagerman fossil beds collected uranium in their bones equally.
What?
There are certain animals that were more likely to be
Sinks.
toxic
Oh,
than others.
it's
Mhm.
me. It's me.
So I'm toxic. I absorb so much radon. So,
Ugh.
Hagerman is a Pliocene site. What animal would you guess has the highest degree of radon
Well, I
in its
know they're
bones?
famous for their horses, which were technically zebras, which is
Yep,
cool. So I mean, like, it's kind of the only thing I know them for, so I have to go with horses. I mean, actually, I know they have a lot in common with
you
John
are
Day fossil
correct.
beds. Oh, good. I should have just stopped while I was ahead.
I
Did
think
it.
they're Pliocene.
Oh, well, that's some I think it's right equivalent with like mascol. I think
That's how I
it's
thought.
yeah, something,
Yeah.
right? I don't know.
Rattlesnake, maybe
Yeah,
something like that.
something.
But I have some animals in common in some of my fossil localities with Hagerman, so I've gotten real familiar with their Equus simplicidans bullshit baby horse, which is one of the ones that I have. But so horses are the worst, which is interesting on a lot of fronts, just because it's very funny to me that we can now officially say horses are the worst.
Are they the largest in their ecosystem? What else was big at
No, I
that
don't think so.
time? There's other big shit still around, right?
I'm pretty sure they still had things like rhinos in Hageman.
Yeah.
I also mostly only know the horses, but I've actually read other papers for some of my own research recently that makes me think I know why horses are the worst. So,
Well,
uh, Kate Barenmeyer, who is a famous taphonomy person. I've been reading a bunch of her papers lately, and one of the things that she has found out, because she's done a lot of studies on like how bones are transported in river systems to try and like reinterpret like if the bones are super rounded, if they're really
yep.
angular, if the bones are sorted by type, how far has this stuff traveled, what was the environment it was deposited in. And so one of the research things that she did was she took a whole bunch of like relatively fresh bones of things like horses, of deer, of I think she did cows as well. She like tagged them somehow so she could find them again, and she tossed them in the river and saw how far they traveled.
That's so
And
cool.
she's also done things where,
That's like my dream. I'm like, no, bloat and float. Let's literally take some model ankylosaurs and
right?
shove them into the ocean and see what happens. Why are we not doing
Yeah,
this?
let's just see what happens.
NSF, fund
She's
me.
also she's done some experiments where she wanted to know, because part of the thing about transporting your bones is the faster that you absorb water, like if you're a more porous bone, so if you have osteoporosis, you're not going to travel as far because you become heavier, right? So you become harder to move.
What? Wouldn't you be easier to move if your bones are super like riddled with lightness?
Well, for a little while, but then you absorb water, and so your
Oh,
potential
fair.
lowers.
Totes. Chill. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So she found that horse bones were the most porous. They absorbed the most water weight. And I wonder if that means that that's why they absorbed the
Probably.
most radon and are the most toxic.
They were
Yeah.
the thirstiest. They were so thirsty
Yeah.
for that good radioactivity.
Just delicious. So
Mm.
these horses are a real problem. If you have too many in your collection, just generally, they're going to be an issue. And of course, the Hagerman Fossil Beds National Monument has quite a lot. So in 2021, they basically migrated all of the specimens to a new place so that they could stop poisoning their employees. So they have a new storage facility. And one of the big things that they did is they put these special port systems in the cabinets to suck the radon out.
Yep.
So that you don't get that buildup of nasty horse gas in your cabinets. Uh, however, a an intern came. I think she was an intern. No, I don't think that's right. An employee came in where her job in 2022. Her job was to test how effective this had been. Basically, like she was going to see if the radon system was working effectively enough because radon gas obviously is bad, but radon gas can also be released during prep. So,
Yeah.
like when you're cleaning fossils, you can release radon. So, like anything you do with these bones like was kind of dangerous because they're so heavy. And if you're doing a lot and you're sitting in the same enclosed space, a lot of collection vaults are like they're climate controlled, they're
Yep.
temperature controlled, they're locked
Ideally.
everywhere. There's not a lot of places for gas to escape
Nope.
unless you are doing it on purpose. And she found in 2022 that basically, despite all of the changes they had made, they were still being exposed to 6.3 picocuries per liter of air. Like people who were working there, they were getting more when they opened the cabinet because the cabinets were something like 500 picocuries, and 4 is the limit. 4 is the EPA limit that you're supposed to be getting.
Oh my God.
So this is after all of these changes. Amy, can you, as a person who has worked at national monuments, guess why perhaps these new inventive cabinets that relied on HVAC systems didn't work?
Lack of funding? I don't know. You're like,
Yes.
okay, good. It's like
Yes.
Obama hated us.
So
It's all
they
no. He made a lot of national
when the
monuments.
system
That was great. Thanks,
he
Obama.
did. He was great. He's still alive. I don't know why we're talking about him like he's dead.
The horses are dead.
So they weren't running the horses are dead. The people who are working around them potentially could be. So when they established this new system, the goal was to run the HVAC system the full time. Basically have the AC
Yeah,
on all
yeah.
the time. That's the only way. And you have to vent
Right.
the cabinets all the time. But that's expensive.
Yeah.
And so someone at the monument was like, "Oh, well, why don't we just run it during the day when people are here and not when they're not?" And the answer is because then you poison them. So,
Oh, that is so, like, not surprising at all, and it's hard too because
yeah.
I'm like, it's not a very well-known national monument. It's very hard to get there. It's in a very weird place. The
Mhm.
people of that area are delightfully strange, but weird. And I just am like, is it really even worth it to house these fossils at all at this point? Like, is it worth it? Like, are we learning anything new about Hagerman horses? Does anyone I sound terrible right now, but I don't fucking care. Like human lives are more important than any fossil ever, ever. So it's just like, can you send them
Yeah.
to the Smithsonian and make it be their problem, their department, like they're federal, like send them to fucking Smithsonian, send them because that just seems like it's not like the risk is not outweighing what we're getting from these fossils in terms of education, research,
Yeah.
tourism to get radoned all the time?
Yeah.
Sounds shitty. Sorry, people of
Well,
Hagerman.
I don't know if you've ever heard people complain about the fact that museums now have so many casts and they don't have the real
Yep.
fossils on
Yep.
display. Well, shut up and stop your bitching because at least they aren't fucking poisoning you
Yeah.
when you come to visit, right? Want more content and you don't want to wait? Or maybe you don't want to hear ads like this? Well, head on over to our Patreon for exclusive content, early ad-free episodes, and so much more. For only $5 a month, you can hear outtakes, exclusive episodes, and the stuff we cut for time. And also the stuff we cut because it was just too much for the general public.
Looking for Fresh fashion with a science twist? Be sure to check out Geopetal Fabric, Megan's clothing company. These geek chic designs look fantastic and make for excellent conversation starters. Plus, get 10% off using code WEIRDANDDEAD. Head on over to geopetalfabric.com now. Yeah, they're poisoning someone in a cabinet somewhere. They'd actually probably be better off
Yeah.
like on a mounted air display, not in a display case, because then you go right back into the same problems.
Yeah.
Because again, I think it's really fascinating that you're saying that because best practices for collection management is all about climate control and all about like managing your agents of
Yep.
deterioration. And it's kind of funny in a fucked up sort of way that by doing that really well, you can create a perfect environment to just facilitate a lot of radon buildup too. But my former museum, we have a ton of Morrison Formation fossils. And Museum of the Rockies is known for its paleohistology lab, which is all about cutting into the fossils. So the paleohistology lab manager, she wears a dosimeter ring and she gets it measured on a regular basis. And it has never been high enough to spike anything at all. I can talk about a lot about why we get freaked out by this, but there's a lot of things that we do in everyday life that are really high radiation that are not as bad as like these fossils. But for her, it made the most sense since she's literally cutting up Morrison bones. She would wear it either on her finger or like on a necklace around her neck. And then she was constantly being measured at work about how much she was taking in.
Yeah, because you have to remember that there's a difference between chronic poisoning and acute poisoning as well. The EPA limit is that limit, not because if you have 5 as opposed to 4, you're going to keel over dead from acute.
Right.
It's because long term, you don't want to be exposed to more than that all of the time. So, like, this was an article where this museum technician who did all this work kind of wrote it up, and the end of the article was basically that Hagerman since then has been working with another museum in Arizona because they have poisonous petrified wood.
Right. Chin Lee. Yeah.
How they're using their HVAC system, because I guess their HVAC system is more energy efficient. So I'm pretty sure they're having to run the AC or at least the air all the time, which they should have been doing because that was in the specifications. So they should have been doing. I mean, I full up as a moron would have also done this if I was in charge. I would have just kind of forgotten that I was supposed to run it the full time. That's why I'm not in charge of this sort of shit. So like I can't like fault them too much, but like it was in the paperwork, so they should have been running it the full time. But now they're going to be switching hopefully to a more efficient system, and it's still nice that they were actually like testing things and like talking about it and not
That's
that's the
big.
nice thing about
Yes.
like the Park Service, right?
In theory. In theory.
In theory. Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like the one last thing that I really had about radioactive bones. So that's Hagerman is bullshit. You should all test your bones and don't have them straight up, I guess, in a closed lock cabinet because sometimes you need to dilute these things. Oh, and I still don't fully understand why radon is harmful because my eyes kind of blur and I get too many flashbacks to that chemistry minor that I don't really remember or use. But I did find a table that said basically part of the reason that radon is fucking terrible is it also decays to a whole bunch of other shit that you don't want in your lungs, including lead.
Yeah,
So, you're you're
Goals.
huffing a whole lot of shit potentially that's very bad for you. Yeah, so if you're thinking at this point listening to this like, "Oh, bones are radioactive and we use these radioactive elements to date things." Does that mean that you can use bones with radioactive elements to date things? And I mean, no, in
Well.
part because they
try.
they suck up.
They try.
I'm sure they do. So there's been a couple studies that have demonstrated that different animals like clams and I think even with the horses, they suck things up preferentially. So when you're doing, any sort of radiometric dating, you're assuming that that they started out with a constant expected level of the parent and the daughter atom, but it sounds like at the very least with these horses and with clams, they are not doing that. They are more preferential to absorbing radon. So probably you're going to get some weird results anyways. But the other thing you have to remember is that this was not a living horse wandering around suffering from uranium
Right.
poisoning. This was a horse that died.
Right.
And as it was getting permineralized, which could have taken, 1,000 years, 100,000 years, but as that was happening, it was being permineralized by groundwater. So even if you could actively date it, what the fuck would you be dating?
Right.
You wouldn't be dating when the animal died.
Nope.
You would be dating some general idea of when it was permineralizing with some problems as far as, how that was incorporated. So sadly, probably not a great idea. There's also, I think, been a couple studies that have shown that the absorption is not even. So even if you did, for whatever reason, want to do this, the outside of the bone or the tooth might have more uranium than the inside. So
Yep.
like you would get different
Yep.
numbers. So
That's
it's
yeah.
useful if you want to find them or kill people slowly. But otherwise, nah.
And it's great if it's found in rocks, and then you can use it as a time device, if you will.
Yes.
But yeah, no, a buddy at Petrified Forest, Adam Marsh, has done and
Mhm.
tried because he was in the same lab as Kelly. Well, kind of. They were both in the
Uh-huh.
Jackson School in graduate school. So he would also use the geochronology lab for some of his work, which was trying to get absolute ages from dinosaur bone and also teeth, and seeing
Mhm.
if you, and exactly what you're saying is like, you're not necessarily getting the actual time of death, and the amounts varied quite a bit, and the numbers weren't making any sense in terms of when this Chinle thing is Chinle old or Kayenta years old.
Yeah.
We have a general grasp on that. And I mean, it's exciting. I think there are better methods, like not necessarily always using uranium, but other decay product, other systems, uranium lead is
Okay.
only one that folks use. Again, I'm
Yeah.
sure he's upstairs just like listing them off. I'm so sorry, but there's a lot. I feel like I'm like, hello, God, tell me. But there are a bunch of other things that rutile. I know that's one. Nope.
You
No
just
take.
shout radioactive things really loud.
Strontium. No reaction. Not yet. Not yet. But there are other
Oh.
things. So it is promising. I do think
Thank
that
you for
within our
listening.
lifetimes,
If you
we
liked
are
the
going to
podcast, be
see
sure to rate
really
and review
cool
us on
shit
your
with
listening
not only being able
platform
to tell
of
the
choice.
age, but
We
another thing that this could be helpful with is
appreciate it.
provenance.
If you'd like to
So
hear
a
more and
big
support the
problem
show, follow us
is
on
thought
Patreon
fossil
for some
theft,
exclusive
especially in the
bits,
Morrison
or on our
Formation.
various
Rebecca
social
Hunt
media
Foster gave a
platforms.
great talk
You can
about
follow
this
Amy on
SVP this
Instagram
year,
at Mary
where
Anning's Revenge.
she showed a
And
map of
Meaghan
all
on
of the different
Instagram and
outcrops of
TikTok
the
as
Morrison and
GeoPedal
what
Fabric,
land
or
ownership
both
they're
of
on,
us
and they're
at
all
Weird and
under like
Dead on
state or
Instagram
federal
and
land.
TikTok.
Only a
You can
small
purchase Weird
pocket
and
is
Dead merchandise
private,
at
but the amount of
geopedalfabric.com and
Morrison
get a copy of
fossils
Amy's new
that you
book, The
see for
Fossil
sale
Keeper's
on
Treasure,
eBay
at
and
all
everywhere
major book
else like give a
retailers. Our
very
theme
strong
song is
indication that a
Unlock
lot
Me
of these
by
are
Praz
poached,
Canal.
but
This
we don't
podcast
have
has
a
been
great
hosted
way of
by and
telling
researched by
exactly
us, Amy
where
Atwater and Meaghan
geographically
Weatherall.
a
Thank you so much
specimen
for
is from
listening.
at this point. But shit like these radioactive elements could be
Yeah.
really important in that puzzle too, which is going to be huge for ethics of paleontology. So that will be amazing
Yeah.
if they get there. So work on that. Rutile strontium.
Well, that's radioactive fossils, except I realized as I was prepping this, I've tested the wood in my house. I have not tested any of the other fossils in my house. So I thought that for a Patreon bonus, I could try and assemble this fucking Geiger counter and we could all watch me struggle. Not only did I have a chemistry minor, Amy, I was a chemistry tutor.
Yeah.
Like I was paid to teach people shit that I don't remember.
Thank you for listening. If you like the podcast, be sure to rate and review us on your listening platform of choice. We really, really, really appreciate it.
If you'd like to hear more and support the show, you can follow us on Patreon for some exclusive bits or on our various social media platforms. You can follow Amy on Instagram at Mary Anning's Revenge.
And Meaghan on Instagram and TikTok as GeoPedal Fabric, or both of us at Weird and Dead on Instagram and TikTok. Our theme song is Unlock Me by Praz Canal. Cover art was provided by Chris Spencer and the hosts.
And this has been hosted and researched by us, Amy Atwater and Meaghan Weatherall. Thank you for listening. Well, I opened this up and found that there's no batteries inside. So I was going to go pause. I'm going to pause the recording so it's not 7,000 years long and go see if I can find some batteries.